Omatakwiyasin to all of my ancestors, all of my relations, to all of my family, and to chosen people in my life. May you be blessed, 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 and more blessed in your journey in life. So I had the privilege and the joy of coming back and spending a week in upstate New York, Hudson Valley, in Poughkeepsie, New York, around 100 plus youth and youth leaders and adult allies and brothers and sisters and family and people that I just can call my loved ones. At the 20th anniversary Rooted in Community Summer Summit. Rooted in Community is an organization that I've been a part of for now 7 years, and it's a national food justice oriented around youth organization that has a summer summit every year and brings youth from all over the country to one part of the country where a youth-led organization will host us, and we will have a week where we have youth-led workshops, we have farm and garden days, we have either a celebratory day or a day of action where we go out in the street and we protest whatever issues are going on in the youth community at that time or whatever community we're in at the moment. And it's an amazing experience, and it's something that brings me a lot of joy, and I am just so blessed to be a part of that community and to be around such incredible change makers, and to see that what I am doing with Rooted in Community can help make a difference in the lives of youth all over the country. I just came back from Rooted in Community's 20th. Like I said, we had it in Poughkeepsie, New York, and it was an incredible time. 5 days of awesomeness. We got to visit the farms of Wild Seed and also Rocksteady. We got to go to Bash Bish, a waterfall, where we got to swim together. 100 plus youth and adult allies got to swim together. It was so dope. We had Rickstock, which was our festival day, where we celebrated 20 years of amazing work that Rooted in Community has been doing since 1998, and got to see a lot of performances and danced and, heard the youth voices. They did a lot of skits and poems and stuff, and so we got to hear their voices of the things going on in their communities. And it was just incredible. I got to share a tent with some important brothers and sisters in my life, and it was just an incredible weekend, an incredible week, and I'm just blessed to be a part of that community. On Saturday, we had Rickstock, like I said. And one of the performances that was done during that time was a Filipino sister. And shout out to the Filipino community. One of my best friends in the whole wide world is half Filipino, half Cherokee. So I hold the Filipino community in high regards in my book. But she did a performance where she basically talked about the resilience, but also the devastation and destruction of her people, thanks to Western civilization and capitalism and white supremacy and all the things that have basically ruined communities, cultures, civilizations for over thousands and thousands of years. It's crazy. But she talked about the resilient warrior women in her communities, the warrior men in her communities, the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and it was just beautiful to see the beauty and the way that she used performance art to tell the story of her people and the way that they are a resilient people who, even though they have been attacked by white supremacy, capitalism, patriarchy, that their culture is always going to be a resilient one and cannot be overtaken. You know what I mean? And that was really beautiful and really reassuring. And so after she did her performance, we did a meditation. So she was doing ancestral remembrance. So we did an ancestral remembrance meditation during that time. And so she had us imagine that we were basically outside in nature in Mother Earth, and we were at a body of water next to a tree. And we were to summon or imagine our ancestors, and whatever ancestors were going to come to mind. They could be people we knew, and they could be people we didn't even know, but who were part of our family lineage or our people. You know what I mean? And for me, I saw a turtle, which turtles to me are one of the most sacred animals. They're part of my totem. You know, they are a totem animal for me, so they're very sacred. They also have a lot to do with my culture, being indigenous Native American of Turtle Island. That has a lot of significance in that culture, and the African American Black culture that was brought over to Turtle Island and mixed with the indigenous people of this land and helped to cultivate this land in hard times. And that was really beautiful, and I was just really blessed to be able to see that. But the other thing that I saw was my grandmother, and my maternal grandmother at that. And my maternal grandmother, her name is Peggy Albert. She just passed away 2 weeks ago. And for my family, it wasn't really that hard. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a hard loss. For us, we were kind of waiting and just counting down the days until she passed and went into the spirit world. Now, to say that my grandmother had an incredible life. When my mom was 19, her and my grandfather got divorced. And my grandmother joined the civil service, moved to Germany, and basically lived in Germany for about 10 years. And then she moved, came back, lived in Texas for a little while, thankfully moved back to Europe, and then met a Czech guy, moved to the Czech Republic, and lived there for the rest of her life. So about over 20 to 30 years, she lived in the Czech Republic and Germany. And she lived a very rich and very rewarding life. During the times that she was living this life, you know, it was hard for women. It was hard for people of color. And to be Black and a woman and indigenous all at the same time, it's hard for them. It's really, really hard. But she lived an incredible life. She went and moved to Europe. She traveled a lot. She lived with her husband and she was happy. She met a lot of important people and a lot of musicians and artists and just people that, you know, the average person wouldn't get to meet under her circumstances. And not to say that her circumstances were ever really that hard, but she did grow up from a very hard background. You know, she had a father who was not kind to her mother or her siblings and was very abusive. And to say that she was able to get out of that situation, make her own life, and then not have that life work out, have, you know, 4 beautiful kids, 3 girls and a boy, but then not have that life work out, but be able to make a new life for herself was just awe-inspiring and beautiful. You know what I mean? And that is something that always resonated with me in my life, was that she was able to just make this grand, beautiful life that my family just looked up to. You know what I mean? And that was something that was so beautiful and so blessed and so blessing and such a blessing. You know what I mean? And so, you know, my maternal grandmother, she was one of the only grandparents that I was fully in contact with and fully got to grow up around. Now, not fully grow up around because she grew up in Europe. She was in Europe for most of the time I was growing up. But I got to write her letters and emails. I visited her many times in Europe while she was in Czech Republic, and it was beautiful to just be able to spend that time with her. I didn't get to do that with a lot of my other grandparents. With my mom's father, I only got to meet him when I was 14 because by the time my grandmother and grandfather got divorced, my mom was 19, and that time she had actually moved to DC. And so by the time I was born, because my mom had me when she was 42, and she had me at home with the midwife, which was such a beautiful experience. She tells me that all the time, that it was such a beautiful experience. But she, you know, she had moved to DC by the time she was 19. And so when I was born, I didn't even get to know him at all. You know what I mean? And so the fact that I didn't get to meet my grandfather until I was 14 actually was kind of sad to me. And I just wish I had gotten to spend more time with him. You know, I visited him a few times over the years, but I didn't get to spend the time with him that I wish I could have. And so when he passed away, it was, you know, sad like the way it was for my grandmother, but I didn't have a emotional connection to him like the way I had with my grandmother. And I didn't have an emotional connection with him really at all because I've only seen him like 3 times in my life before he passed away. And with my dad's parents, his mom died when he was 17 of MS, and his dad died like a few years before I was even born. So I never got to meet them. So I never even got to meet any of my dad's parents, and so that was like something too. Like, all I have is pictures of them and stories that my dad tells me. And so, when my grandmother died, it just dawned on me that she was one of the last remaining, paternal, maternal grandparents, you know what I mean? Like, she was the last one. And that got me thinking about a lot of other things as well. It got me thinking about my own parents and the fact that my parents are now in their 70s and that I'm 26 and I'm only going to have so much time with them in my life, and that I have to cherish the time that I have with them now. It also got me thinking about her resilience. The way that she just was such a free thinker, such a free woman, and never let anybody take her down. She was a feisty one, man. My grandmother was feisty. She was a feisty woman, and I appreciated every moment of it, right? I see a lot of it in my siblings, my sister especially. When I'm around her, she's very feisty, and she gets it very much honestly from my grandmother. They had lots of clashings growing up. But basically, my grandmother was so resilient and took over her life when things were not going right for her, and she was able to overcome a lot of things, take over her life, and make the best of it up until her dying day. You know what I mean? And yeah, the past couple of years were kind of bad for her because she was stuck in a nursing home with a pacemaker, and she wasn't eating, and she kind of had fallen into Alzheimer's a little bit, and it was slowly starting to take over. But thankfully, she has passed on to the spirit world, and I'm highly grateful for that. You know what I mean? But the reason I think on Saturday, during Rickstock, when I did that meditation, the ancestral remembrance meditation, I think the reason I saw her in that is because I'm having a lot of personal issues in my own life, where when she passed away, it got me thinking about my life and the way that I'm going on with my life. Most people don't know this about me, and I try to keep this away from most people because I don't want people to think anything of me. You know what I mean? I try to keep up a happy face. I try to make sure that my social media is as happy as ever, that what I'm posting has nothing to do with what I'm personally going through in my own life, because I don't want people to think it's lame. I don't want people to think that what I'm going through is lame, what I'm going through is dumb, and that there are bigger issues in this world that people should be focusing on, you know? Look at the president we have. Look at the world that's in the state that it's in. Look at the climate change that needs to be done. Look at our food industry. Look at all these issues going on, racial issues. All these things are going on in the world. And so I don't want to make my dumb issues seem like they're a burden on the bigger issues going on in this world. So I've never really shared these issues with people outside of my family and a few friends and my own head. You know what I mean? But I just feel like it's time that I kind of open up and let you guys in on this, because I feel like this is important, something that I need to talk about. And if I don't get it out soon, I just don't know. So here goes. On Saturday, when we did the ancestral remembrance meditation, like I said, I saw the turtle and I saw my grandmother. Two very powerful ancestors in my life. When I saw my grandmother, it opened up a lot of things that I had been dealing with prior to even coming to Rooted in Community this year. I was dealing with it when I went on a family vacation a couple of weeks before to New Orleans, and I've been dealing with it basically 24/7 in a weird way for a long time. And it's this thing where, okay, my mom has a brother, my uncle, and I told you my grandparents got divorced, my mom's mom and my mom's dad. They got divorced when my mom was 19, so back in like the 60s. And my uncle was like maybe 13, 14, I can't remember. But he was a little bit younger than my mom and my aunts, right? And so my aunts and my mom were able to take it very, they were able to understand and take it in a way that was like, okay, because they were not in their teenage phase anymore, and they were getting into their 20s, and they were having babies of their own, and so it wasn't really that serious for them. that, things were happening. But because my uncle was younger, it kind of affected him in a bad way. And for a long time, and I think up until my grandmother's death, to be honest, he blamed my grandmother for breaking up with my grandfather. Time goes by, my uncle gets a job at the post office, and he's happy. He has a girlfriend, he's happy. Somewhere in this mix, something happens to him, and it makes him so that he cannot function in his life anymore. And so he ends up moving in with my grandfather, who my grandfather was a Tuskegee Airman. My grandfather was a teacher in LA and did a lot of teacher strikes, trying to get better qualities for teachers of color. He was an awesome person, right? But my grandfather was at that age, and he was also a hoarder. And when I say he was a hoarder, I mean he was a hoarder, which is something that runs in our family. And it's something I'm trying to break the cycle of now, because if I don't break the cycle of being a hoarder now, I don't know what's going to happen. So basically my uncle moves in with my grandfather and never leaves the house again. Never leaves the house again. My grandfather passed away in 2015, I think. 2014 or 2015. I can't remember which year. But basically he passed a few years ago. And my grandfather is in his late 60s. So basically my grandfather's in his mid to late 60s. And not my grandfather, my uncle. My uncle's in his mid to late 60s. And he has no skills. He has no job. He has bad health. He's a hoarder. And he just is very mentally ill because he spent over 30 years in a locked up house with my grandfather in a toxic environment, both physically and mentally, to the point where he now lives in a world where he has many health issues. He can't deal with his life. He has horrible anxiety and depression. He's scared of doctors. He's scared to fly. There's so many different things that he is just scared to do because he spent so much time in his father's house with him, with an old man, and he does not live his life to the fullest. And when I say my uncle is handsome, my uncle is so handsome, right? He could have been a model. He could have been a movie star. They were right there in Hollywood. I mean, they do live like right there. He could have been a movie star. He could have been a model. He could have been anything he wanted to be. He could have been a hot doctor. I mean, he could have been anything, right? But he something in his brain triggered to make it so that he could not do those things, and he had to be stuck in that house with my grandfather for 30 years up until his death. And now he has no skills to call his own. He can't deal with his life. And when my grandmother died, because my uncle is scared of flying, he never went to see my grandmother in Europe when she was over there. And so, we were going to go in October, and I think we still are going to go in October to spread her ashes, because her ashes are over there in the Czech Republic. And so we were telling my uncle he has to come with us, but he's scared of flying. And so, my grandmother dies 2 weeks ago, right? And now my uncle is kicking himself, and he's so pissed at himself because he knows that he could have gotten on an airplane and went to see her. And what else is worse is that so he has a fear of flying. He never reached out to her at all. He never Skyped her. He never emailed her. He never called her. He never did anything. Since she moved over there, he has been mad at her. And then when she passes away, he gets mad at himself because he never had any contact with her. And he's mad at himself. And, you might be thinking, what the heck does this have to do with you? But this has a lot to do with me because I'm in a rut right now. I don't show it on the outside. I try to live a very, what we call fake happy lifestyle, where what you see on the outside is what I'm trying to show to people. I don't try to show the things that I'm dealing with in the inside and the things that I've been dealing with for a long time. So in 2010, I graduated from high school. And in 2011, I did this program called AmeriCorps and Triple C. It's basically a national service project program where you travel with about 12 people in a white peace. IGTV Live. Welcome to my very first video I've ever done on this platform. Today's video is going to be a little personal. It's going to be a little bit much. And take it or leave it. I'm going to be speaking my truth today. And I think that's something that I've needed to do for a while. So yeah, here goes. You travel with about 12 people in a white van, a 15-passenger van, and basically you do national service projects and you travel to different places around the country. So I did that for a year. It was great. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about others and learned how to be on a team. When I came back home, things started to change. And I've been feeling this way for a long time, but in different ways. So growing up, I always had problems in school. Not like behavioral problems, because that's just not who I am, but learning problems. Growing up, I had severe dyslexia. And for a long time, up until about 6th grade, I was failing school. I never fully understood why, but I could not figure out my life, and I could not figure out school. School was super hard for me, and I couldn't figure it out. But thanks to my 6th grade teacher, who I am always going to be super, super, super in debt for the rest of my life, helped me get onto a path of helping to discover that I actually have dyslexia and, helping me to get accommodations and help throughout the rest of my schooling. And I was so happy because it made school so much easier. It was still hard for me. It was still hard. I'm not going to say it was a cakewalk after that, but it was much easier. It was much easier. When I got my first A on something back in middle school, I was the happiest kid on planet Earth. Planet Earth. So I'd always been feeling kind of this way, and it was just a feeling. I come back from AmeriCorps, and I kind of just don't know what I'm going to do with my life after that, you know what I mean? Like, I was more content to just sit around and do nothing and kind of just, like, not do anything with my life and feel, whatever, and not actually, do anything that was productive. Until one of my mom's friends actually told me about a position at an organization called the Rural Coalition. And the Rural Coalition is a national nonprofit that works on agriculture policy, food justice, food sovereignty, and works with member organizations all over the country that are working on farms and gardens and things like that, and helping to bring their voices to Washington, D.C. When it comes to the Farm Bill, when it comes to things like USDA and other things like that. And basically bringing their voices into a national scale. So I worked there for 3 years. And during that time, I discovered Rooted in Community, the organization that I went to just a few days ago in upstate New York in Poughkeepsie. Okay, so basically, I discovered Rooted in Community, and it's basically the lifeblood of all lifeblood. You know what I mean? Like, with all the issues that I'm going on in my life, Rooted in Community is my safe space. Rooted in Community is my heart. Rooted in Community gives me joy, and I get to see a lot of people I don't get to see very often, and I get to just, all the things going on in my life when I'm not at Rooted in Community go out the window, and I can feel happy and wholesome and just I feel like loved. Not that I don't feel loved in my personal life, because I do. I have a family, I have friends, I definitely feel love. But sometimes it can be a little hard. And I feel more gratifying love than I do in a normal day-to-day basis, right? And so basically, going back to my uncle, in my life, like I said, I'm in a rut right now. I am kind of stuck in a place that I've been stuck in for a really long time, like a really long time. And I've been trying to get out of this rut for like the longest, but for some reason, it's just been really hard. I've lived with my parents since I was born. I'm now 26. And for some reason, because I have 5 siblings, and they're all older than me, I'm the baby, and for some reason, they've all been able to get out of my parents' house. They've all been able to live productive lives. They have kids. They've been able to just live their life the way they want to live their life. And for some reason, and I don't know why this is, being the last of 5, I, for some reason, have not been able to branch out and leave the nest. Now, it doesn't mean I haven't in the past. I've done things like AmeriCorps. I've done other things where I've been able to leave the nest and feel very capable and very happy about leaving the nest. So I don't know that it's actually leaving the nest and like feeling like, oh, but I'm my parents and all these things. Like, yes, my parents are the number one most important thing to me in my whole entire life. Like, they mean more to me than anything. And when they pass away, I'm going to feel like a ton of bricks is going to hit me because they're just the most important people in my life ever. And I don't know how I'm going to handle my life when they pass away. I think about it a lot, being the youngest, but I also, for a long time, have known that people in my life who are older than me, because everybody's older than me, people in my life that are older than me are going to pass away before I'm able to fully live life with them. You know what I mean? And not to say I haven't lived life with my parents, because I have. I've done a lot of incredible things with my parents. You know, I've traveled a lot with my parents. You know, I've done a lot of incredible programs with my parents, and they show me a lot of love and support, and I just love them to death, right? They're my rock, they're my everything. And so maybe that's why I feel some type of way about them getting older and passing away one day. But basically, me not being able to leave the nest, I don't think has as much to do with my parents as it does with my own self. I've been going through this period of time. I like to call it my 20-something crisis. Basically, my 20-something crisis is where I, as a 20-something, I'm 26, have not been able to fully take a hold and grasp of her life. That being said, I haven't fully been able to discover my self-purpose, my self-worth, and who I am as a person. I have done many things over the years, and, you know, I appreciate all of those things, but I am trying to find that thing that keeps my heart pumping and makes me just feel so much joy. I'm bursting at the seams. And I've discovered there's been a few things that have brought me that joy in my life. Things like, you know, writing my blog, iceturtlegirl.blog. Things like going to Rooted in Community. Rooted in Community gives me so much joy. And being with the people I'm around and just feeling validated in my life, there just gives me a lot of pleasure and joy, and it helps with things going on. Like every single year for the past at least 5 years that I've past 5 years that I've gone to Rooted in Community. Prior to going to Rooted in Community, in some way, shape, or form, something will happen, like right before I go to Rooted in Community, that just makes me feel down in the dumps, that just makes me feel not whole, not myself, and just makes me feel less than. And I'll go back to Rooted in Community, and I'll go commune in nature, and I'll go commune with a lot of people that I love and don't get to see often enough, and it'll just uplift my spirits to the highest degree, and it'll help me get through the rest of the year. And that just is something that I cherish so much, and I'm just so glad that I have those people in my life, even if they're far away. Even just getting to see their posts on social media makes me so happy, just so blessed. And I know in that way I'm super blessed, and I'm blessed in my life. I'm not going to say I'm not. There are people that have it way worse. But at the same time, I am dealing with my 20-something crisis, and I am dealing with finding who I am and what I can contribute to this earth, to Mother Earth, to the people of Mother Earth, to the animals of Mother Earth, to the sky, to Grandmother Moon, and Grandfather Sun, to everybody and everything that's living, breathing. What can I contribute to you? And how am I an asset to this world? And I just haven't figured that out yet. And I think because I have older siblings who are at that age where they could be my parents, you know what I mean? I have a lot of family pressure on me, where my siblings have this funny way of, every time we get together as a family, they have this funny way of making me feel like I am 5 years old again, and not really feeling like I am the adult that I have been able to become. Yes, I am not at the level I wish I was in my life at that moment of time and in this moment of time. But I am trying every day, and I'm trying to be that adult that I wish I was. And when my siblings come up to me and they make me feel less than who I am, it hurts. It really hurts, you know what I mean? Like, I am trying so hard to deal with life, and life is hard, you know what I mean? Life is hard. And I don't know what it is, and I don't know what is blocking me, but for some reason, I have been blocked, and I don't know why, you know what I mean? And yeah, I'll say it, I've been depressed. I've been depressed for the past 7 years, and it's been a hard journey that I personally have had to deal with, and I personally have had to go through life with, and I've had to keep to myself for a lot of the time, because I have a lot of people in my family going through a lot worse things, and I just feel like I've been very privileged in my life. There's a lot of things that other people didn't have growing up that I had, you know, and I never wanted people to think of my issues that I was going through as something that was validated, because it wasn't as big as their issues. I didn't want that. I didn't want you guys to think of my issues as, you know, I didn't want you guys to think I was a burden. Telling you my issues and dealing with those things, you know. I've been doing a lot of things in my life since I was, you know, a kid. And that has to do with, you know, the dyslexia I had to deal with in school, or when I was a kid, I used to see spirits heavily, and that was a big thing. Or, you know, when I was a junior in high school, you know, my best friend almost killed herself because of a guy. And, you know, there's a lot of things that I have gone through in my life that I just never really opened up and talked about, that have always weighed heavily on my soul, on my heart. And I haven't been able to talk about them because I don't want people to think that my issues are something that people need to know about, that are anything big and real, you know. And there are people out here that are being deported, the earth is on fire, you know, war is always happening, you know, climate justice, all of these things, the food industry, you know, the youth are being killed in the streets, you know, police brutality, you know, white supremacy, capitalism, all of these things are happening to other people in the world. And I just don't feel like my issues that I'm going through are big enough to talk about. But today, I had to talk about them. Because I feel like I saw my grandmother and I saw that turtle because I had to talk about them, because I had to get them out of my chest, because I wouldn't have started crying heavily if that didn't affect me. You know what I mean? If the fact that my siblings are always telling me that I'm going to end up just like my uncle, who lived with his father up until the time that my grandfather passed away and now has no life, when they tell you that stuff, it hurts. Because it makes you think, oh, what's the point of trying, because you're going to end up just like your uncle. And I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person that ends up like him. I love my Uncle Donnie. I love him to the moon and back. But I can't end up like you. I cannot do that. And I can't be a hoarder. And there's a lot of things that I just can't do that are things that might happen to me, and I don't want those things to happen to me. And I'm trying every day to find my life purpose, to find what makes me happy. But it's hard. And, this past family vacation that we took to New Orleans, I had to have a conversation with myself and say, I don't know if I can take any more family vacations with my family anymore because of the way that they treat me when we're around each other. You know what I mean? They treat me like I'm 5 years old. They don't treat me like I'm an adult. And they make me feel like I'm less than. And it hurts. And I don't know how much more I can take of that. So right now I'm on a need-to-know basis with my siblings and people like that. But I am trying every day to make myself feel validated and feel happy. But it's an ongoing struggle, and I am just so grateful for beautiful, beautiful, beautiful spaces like Rooted in Community that just help me to feel better on a daily basis and to just remind me that I am worthy and that I have a place in this earth, and there's a reason I'm here, and why I care about the people I care about and the issues I care about, and why I fight for food justice, and why I fight for environmental justice, and why I fight for social justice, and why these things matter to me so much. Because, I don't want to see people out here getting hurt. I don't want to see the earth getting hurt. I don't want to see us eating plastic. It's crazy. And all I ever come through with my life, and all I ever want to spread out there in the world is love, 100%. And I just feel like at the moment, I have my Rooted in Community family, and they send me so much love and so much light and so much happiness. And I am so glad to have you guys in my life. But I need other people in my life to send me that same joy and gratitude and happiness and make me feel the way that I need to be felt. You know what I mean? The way I need to feel, I'm not always getting that in my daily life. And even though, my parents will always tell me they love me, and even though, my siblings aren't the worst people in the world, it just feels hard. Because it feels like I'm stuck in this rut, and I don't know how to get out of it. And the worse that I get into it, the worse it gets for me and my family and just the people around me. And, my siblings have had to help me over the years, and they've tried to make it so that I could get out of this rut. But I think I have to find out that what I need to do, I need to find that on my own, because I feel like that's something that is something, I have to it's a self-discovery type of thing, and I can't have anybody else discover that for me. I have to discover it on my own. So, after this very long rant that I just felt like needed to get off my chest, because Saturday when I started crying during that Filipino lady's, that beautiful sister's performance, after I started crying during it, I already knew that was going to be a hard time, and that I was going to need to just cry it out, because crying is a good medicine. And so I'm so blessed to have such a beautiful family and Rooted in Community. Shout out to my sisters, Edene, Irene, and Yasmin, Mina, who were there for me going through their own issues, and we communed together, and we helped each other, and we boosted each other up, and we were there for each other. And I'm just so happy to have a sisterhood like that, and just so happy to have a family that is so supportive of each other, and the people that they're there for each other, and they're there for me, and I just love it. So I just wanted to kind of get this off my chest and talk about these things that aren't necessarily something that I personally, I don't know. I just felt like I needed to get off my chest. So I'm going to stop, because I'm going to start rambling for no reason. But if you listen to this, I appreciate you. If you didn't listen to this, no big deal. It was kind of just to get this off my chest and to talk about this and to basically just do this for my own self-healing. So until next time, IGTV, peace and blessings. Love you.